All right, we're going to take a little pause here, and we want to welcome in Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. Larry, first of all, thank you so much for getting up early, hanging out with us. I know you guys are coming off a tough loss to the Lions, not the way you wanted to start the season. A lot of question marks surrounding you and what's happening. But first, you and CC have known each other a long time. You have to settle something for us right off the bat before we start, because every morning all I hear about is how, no matter what anyone tells you, this guy's got the best hands that has ever played in the NFL and that will ever play in the NFL. And as someone who has great hands, please just settle that score before we dive into this interview.
He can have it. For argument's sake, you know, he can have it.
It's early in the morning, and you don't have no arguing in you. First of all, Larry, thank you for the sacrifice. Thank you for joining us on the show. There's a guy on your team, David Johnson. You've talked to me personally about him, how talented he was, the versatility. He's one of the special backs, also a special person off the field. Can you give us a little insight into, if he's going to miss an extended amount of time, what will Arizona miss in the locker room and on the field?
Well, he's so dynamic in what he can do in terms of his pass protection, his vision, his ability to make plays out of nothing. I mean, just a few times last week, you know, there was plays where he was hitting the backfield, ended up turning a negative run into, you know, a gain of 3 or 4 yards, you know. So just being dynamic in what he can do with the football. And then in the passing game, he's so versatile. He's so intelligent. You can put him in any position, move him and motion him, and he can win his individual matchups, not only on linebackers, but on safeties and sometimes, you know, even corners. So, I mean, I don't know exactly how long he's going to be out, but, you know, any time with him not on the field is not good for us.
Larry, I like your shirt, man. Can you tell me anything behind it, why you're wearing it, what it means to you?
I wear it all the time. It's a Nike shirt. You know, it's part of their equality, you know, campaign, and, you know, I always wear it.
Larry, talk to us about what happened on Sunday and how long a loss like that stays with your team and what you now have to do moving forward to put the pieces back together and get ready for week 2.
Well, you have 24 hours to feel bad for yourself and sulk and figure out what you did wrong and the things you need to improve on individually and in terms of your unit. So that period is over. We're on to the Indianapolis coach, trying to make sure we are doing everything we can in our power to be ready to be able to put a game together that's going to produce a winning effort. I mean, we got a team that's hungry. They got beat by the Rams yesterday. They're coming home for their home opener. So we're going to have to come out there and start fast and early and be much more efficient than we were last Sunday.
Last week, Glover Quinn, the safety, probably a friend of yours, he shared the conversation that you had with him, something in the reference of lower hits to the legs. You prefer to be hit high in your head area, and you are willing to pay the fines. Now, you are in a long list of wide receivers who would much rather be hit up top compared to on your legs. A number of times you've had your legs taken out. You sprained your MCL, I think, twice with lower hits. Explain to fans why you as a wide receiver would say that and what it means for wide receivers going forward with the rule changes.
Well, you know, it's a slippery slope, Uncle Chris. I mean, to talk about it, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, those guys have to lower their strike zone because of the rules to protect the guys from head trauma. But, you know, as you know, as a player, you know, getting hit in your head, I mean, you miss a couple weeks and you're back. But, you know, getting hit in your knees and your lower extremities, I mean, those are things that will end your career. And, you know, we have families that we have to provide for. So I think that goes along with the thinking that most of the guys would have.
Larry, you just called my partner here Uncle Chris. I know this because I know Chris so well. Chris has relationships with a lot of wide receivers, but he's had a relationship with you since you were a child, since you were, you know, an early teenager. He was telling, we were talking before the show today about the Super Bowl that you starred in, and you were a few seconds from winning Super Bowl MVP. And Chris telling that story as he gets to the part where Santonio Holmes' feet touchdown, there's tears in his eyes. And it's like he's talking about a son that had something taken from him. If it's not too personal, can you tell the audience, walk us through how long my partner's been in your life and like what your guys' relationship has been?
Yeah, so I got the great benefit of being able to meet him. I think it was around 1995, 96. My dad and Coach Green had a radio show every single week, so Coach Green allowed me to come and be around the team from time to time, and you know, my dream was to be a wide receiver. Watching him do what he was able to do every single week on Sundays, you know, so I was afforded the opportunity to see what made him great. And most people only get a chance to see professional athletes when they're performing on the big stage. I got to see what made him great throughout the course of the week: his work ethic, his dedication to his body, his craft in the classroom. All those things that separated him from everybody else is what I got to learn. And it was valuable to me because, you know, that's something I aspired to do. So he pretty much gave me the blueprint. You know, just follow my lead. This is what I do during the season. This is where I train in the off season down in Boca Raton. You know, and it wasn't always about, it wasn't about himself. It was about bringing other guys. It didn't matter what team they play for or what position they play for. He wanted guys to get better and improve. And he opened up his home. He fed me. He let me drive his cars. I mean, whatever I needed to be able to succeed, he did it. And you know, it meant a great deal to me. And I wouldn't be sitting here in this position if it wasn't for his dedication to allow young people to thrive being around him.
Tell sports fans, have you stopped stealing out of people's car when you're supposed to go wash the car? Have you stopped taking the change out the change thing yet? Because that was a bad habit you had as a kid. Have you got rid of that yet with all that money?
But I thought it was like an unwritten rule that we were allowed to take the change. I mean, it was just change in your ashtray. I mean, then like you needed, you were making millions of dollars. I thought, what was a couple dollars in quarters going to bother you?
Nick, how much money has he made?
Well, I mean, Larry is the 8th highest paid player in league history.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about the money. Doesn't matter about none of that. You know, you gotta save. You gotta save. I was on the early budget.
Okay, one thing you mentioned as far as the program I used to have as far as training people, you've adopted the same program. You have a bunch of wide receivers, a bunch of quarterbacks, and other athletes. Can you kind of give us some insight of some of the great young wide receivers that you've seen working out with you, guys who you've been impressed with, who might not necessarily be on other people's radar?
Well, I mean, I used to do it a lot more. Now I do a little bit smaller session now. I mean, as you know, logistics become you know, a bit of an issue. But I mean, there was a lot of really talented young receivers that would come up. You know, I remember Brandon Marshall coming up and Demarius and guys like that when they were young. You know, and really pushing each other and getting better and that's really what it's all about, is just, you know, just getting the best out of each other, because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, and that's to be the best at our craft. And, you know, I think iron sharpens iron, and that's what we were trying to do. That's what you were doing for myself and Jake Reed and Randy Moss and the plethora of other guys that were down there training with you down in Florida.
Larry, you're locked and loaded in Arizona now, but you're one of a few people who've managed to step foot on all 7 continents. Your off-season travel is extensive and very impressive. Where was the last place you were?
I got a chance to go to Scotland for the first time, so that was my 97th country this off season.
97.
I'm an avid golfer, so getting to St. Andrews was something that was high on my bucket list. So I was able to do that this year, and hopefully I'll be able to break the 100 mark, you know, this off season.
Where on the globe haven't you been? Like, what is the next place? Like, what would be the next destination for Larry Fitzgerald?
So, Uncle Chris, I've been pretty much everywhere you could think of in the Southern Hemisphere. That's just because our off-season usually starts, you know, January, February, and then it stretches until April. That's the time that you can kind of travel. So, you know, being from Minnesota, you know, the last thing I want to do is be somewhere in Scandinavia freezing. You know, so that's why most of the places I've been in the Southern Hemisphere. But to name a few, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Iceland, Greenland, places like that I haven't been to. So I really want to hit some of the Scandinavian countries, but that's going to probably have to be, you know, later on.
Quick football question for you, Larry. You guys got a game this week against a team that also started 0-1, the Indianapolis Colts. Colts don't know who they're starting at quarterback. You guys know who you are starting at quarterback, Carson Palmer, even though week 1 didn't go the way he hoped it would. What if you have to change one thing from week 1 headed into week 2 to get a win, what would that one thing be?
Well, I mean, just, you know, as an offense, especially on the road, you know, you want to be able to win the turnover battle. You know, if we're efficient in the turnover battle, we're converting more efficiently on third downs and making sure we're scoring touchdowns in the red zone. I mean, field goals are good, but, you know, being able to get 7, you know, really is imperative to be successful on the road. So those are the 3 things that I'd say that, you know, if I can change one thing from week 1, that would be it.
Larry, thank you for joining us. Jenna, I mean, we're very, very thankful. I'm getting a little choked up because I have a son in Duran, but there's no human being that's like a son to me besides that guy. I appreciate the sacrifice. I appreciate how you've helped wide receivers, how you have lifted up the game of the NFL and been an ambassador of how to be a professional athlete. And I love you, and I always will. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Chris, I love you too. You know, that means a great deal to me. And, you know, I'm just trying to pass down what you taught me.
Yeah, and you just passed me by 30 catches.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Larry. I appreciate you knocking him down all the lists. Keep going. Keep going. Thank you, Larry.
Larry Fitzgerald, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from some of our other great shows on FS1.